When did you add the zip lines?
No, zip lines I added, they've been around for like 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, first I had one that just a short one to the old oak tree there. Actually, it could come out of my bedroom window. I had to take a rope over to this other platform, and then I could zip to this tree house 50 feet up in the air, and it was where, if they came to get me, that's where I was going to do my Ruby Ridge. I mean, I didn't have any weapons or anything, but they wouldn't have been able to get me.
Your last stand.
My last stand, yeah.
There's a place in southern Oregon filled with gorgeous natural beauty, friendly yet independent people, and a mild, comfortable climate. That place is called Grants Pass. These are the stories of the people that live and work in Josephine County. These are the movers and shakers that make this place the best. This is Grants Pass VIP.
Michael E. Garnier was born in Gary, Indiana in 1948 and is one of 8 siblings. He attended Michigan State, where he studied engineering, but dropped out after he was unable to continue wrestling. He was then drafted and became a Special Forces medic with the Green Berets, where he served until 1972. Michael moved to Oregon in 1973 to be a physician's assistant and helped open the Takilma Free Clinic. In 1975, he bought his property and eventually stopped working in medicine and started woodworking. Over the years, he built pole furniture and Dr. Birch's Yankee Doodle picture propellers until he built his first treehouse in 1990. Over the last 25 years, he has been a pioneer in the treehouse world. Innovating and designing the Garnier limb has enabled him and countless others to build treehouses all over the world. His latest endeavor, the Treehouse Guys, began in 2013 and continues showing today. Michael, welcome to the Grants Pass VIP podcast.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we like to talk to people. I mean, it's not just about Grants Pass, it's about people throughout Josephine County or people that have an effect on Josephine County. What you've built up here is an institution and kind of a world landmark in a sense. I see it everywhere I go. I'm always seeing things drawing people back to Out'n'About, and this is just fabulous.
I consider it the largest concentration of tree houses in the world.
Wow, that's great stuff. And you've been doing it a while here. I saw a lot of the history regarding it, and hopefully we can dig into that as we go. Besides what we heard about in your bio, who are you and how would people know you?
Well, they might have seen me in the papers for, the controversy where I've had a battle with Josephine County that's been going on for over 30 years, which is actually getting close to being resolved after only 30 years.
Fabulous.
But there was a lot of newspaper articles, a lot of news articles, TV, and on a lot of travel shows, and a place where you can actually come and stay in the trees, and it's world renowned. And we also they had a real bitchin' 4th of July party here, which we didn't have last year. Last year would have been my 30th anniversary, but because of COVID, we didn't. But hopefully this year, we will again. This will be probably one of the final ones, but hopefully we'll have all our permits and throw a heck of a party.
Oh, that's incredible. How did you end up here? Why would you choose this area out of all others?
Well, that's kind of a long story. But let me see, listen to this. You hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's one of the things that we do here, and that's the sound of a zip line. That's why they call it a zip line, because it's kind of got a zip, to it. But anyway, they're just finishing up a course, so we can get back to that later. See, like you said, I was born in Gary, Indiana, and basically I got out of there as soon as I was able. And so after the service, I was looking for a place to come. One of the guys that was in the service was from actually Medford, Oregon, and he told me about all the mountains and the clean rivers and the trees. And I was from Flatland, Indiana, and it sounded really interesting to me. Plus, back then, this was in 1972, that the end of the world was, possibly going to come from a nuclear attack or the Russians invading us, and Oregon looked like a very good place to come to as far as for fallout and just a lot of free land to be able to survive in. So I'm sort of looked at it as a survivalist thing, but more the clean rivers and, tall trees and mountains.
Yeah.
But, so there was a physician's assistant school that was starting out in Portland. So I moved out to Portland to go to the school, but the school never got established. It never took roots. But I ran into this doctor at the Portland Free Clinic outside in and said, hey, do you want to come down with me and check out setting up a free clinic down in Takelma, Oregon? I said, well, where's that? And he said, Cave Junction, Southern Oregon. Well, I had looked around Cave Junction because it had Smoke Jumper's Base and the Kalmiopsis Wilderness. I had already seen that on a map. I didn't know where Takelma was, but I knew where Cave Junction was. I said, sure, I'll go. I came down here, and on my first visit, actually, we went to the Magic Forest Farm. Basically, Takelma was a hippie community, and back then there was some conflict between the long hairs and the rednecks, or the hippies and the rednecks, and basically the local health department didn't want anything to do with long hairs or the hippies, and so that was a need for setting up a free clinic. Anyway, we stayed at the Magic Forest Farm, and on my birthday in 1972, I went for a walk. Walked across this back meadow here, right? The Magic Forest Farm is over there, and we walked across, and I walked across this meadow, and right behind you, it's not there anymore, but there was a giant oak tree. And you can see it over there. It's laying down on the ground. Anyway, I said, wow, that's a neat tree, and I wonder if anybody lives here. So a year later, I was living here, and a year after that, I owned the place.
Wow.
And I just knew when I walked across here that it just felt like, where I wanted to be. And now the big thing now was to figure out how to make a living here.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a physician's assistant for a while, but and I was pretty good at sewing people up, but internal medicine didn't quite have the knack for it. There was just, couldn't tell if somebody was faking it or not, or I even got a degree in psychology to try to figure it all out, and that didn't really help me. But I ended up becoming an MDGQ. It's one of those Qs, But this Q stands for Mighty Damn Good Quack. And so I did a medicine show for a while. Then I got into woodworking, and I made furniture with Delbert. Delbert Kaufman was one of the first, and is one of the old pioneers at Takelma, and a lot of people started working for him. Anyway, I worked for him doing pole fencing and pole barns, and did pole furniture. I also carved out a picture propeller, which is an organic psychedelic kaleidoscope. And I really enjoyed working with wood, but it was hard making a living here out of that. It's a beautiful area. The whole thing came down to a question of how to make a living. I got the idea of, I had built a tree house for my kids, and it was really funky. I took the ladder down after I saw them play 18 feet up in the tree, but I looked at that tree house for a long time and figured out how they'd do it if I had the time and if I had the money. After a while of living here, and actually I started a bed and breakfast with English wife at the time. She did horseback riding, and this cabin over here we had as our bed and breakfast. But nobody came, And so I finally looked up at that tree house and I said, I'm ready to. I learned a lot more about how to build and everything in the 10 years that it sat for there. So in 1990, I built my first tree house. Everybody thought I was crazy. For one, it was in Takelma, it was in this hippie community, and there was kind of shacky houses and or creative houses all over the place. But I built it anyway, and the old saying is, "Built it and they will come." Well, they came, and that was the start of it. But the then right after, I ran into a problem with the county. Now, I had gone into the county back in 1990 and asked for showed them my idea about a treehouse, and the planning department was excited about it, but the building department was not. And basically they told me that I couldn't get a permit for a treehouse. Well, my engineer that I had at the time, his suggestion was, well, if they won't give you a permit, build it to code anyway as much as you can. They said I couldn't get a permit because it didn't have a concrete or treated wood foundation. And my argument was a tree was the foundation, and I didn't accept that. Anyway, that started a long battle that kind of went back and forth over the last 30 years. It's gone from bad to worse to better to, bad again, and then to back to getting better, and actually over the last 6-7 years it's been working out. A little bumpy, but for one, at first I was at planning, it was just a bed and breakfast, but then I built more tree houses than that, and it didn't fit in the bed and breakfast. Then I became a private park. And then for building, at first they said I couldn't get a building permit, but then I even went to the state of Oregon, to the building department there, to the head of the state building board, and they actually ruled that yes, indeed, I could get a building permit. So with the help of my engineer, Charlie Greenwood, and actually the first building inspector I had a hard time was Frank Honeycutt. He eased up a little bit when he talked to Dave Bassett, who had come out here and said, hey, these are really pretty well built. And then Dave Bassett became the building inspector at one time, and it was, things were able to move through a little bit better during him. And then it went back. I don't need to name all the different names of some of the a-holes that were part of the different parts of planning and building. And then there was a county commissioners, which I had quoted at one time in I think it was one which I can't remember which magazine it was. I forgot my notes. Where I called them the Tree Stooges. And that was like Irv Whiting, Hagen, and then Borngasser. All right. They even charged me with contempt of court and were trying to put me in jail for, I had tear down orders that I had to fight. And I went to court, and it's been a long battle, but through all in all, actually the county's been able to work through it. So I've been able to stay open, even though to stay open sometimes I was selling tree shirts. I didn't you didn't pay to stay here, you bought a dated one-of-a-kind tree shirt, which was a t-shirt with a picture of the tree house on it. And that didn't guarantee that you would spend the night, but if you spent that night on that night, then I would sign that shirt, so then you would have a dated one-of-a-kind tree shirt. A rough version of it.
No, that's great. So in the very beginning, how did you get the word out? You had your original tree house out here. How did you get the word out to bring people in?
Well, it's a thing called a Publicitree. There wasn't very many tree houses back then. Actually, I ran into this guy, Peter Nelson, who was wanting to do a book on tree houses. Okay, so I met him back in '92, and he took pictures of the peacock perch. He had built one tree house and had that. So his book came out in '94, and lo and behold, my tree house was on the cover of that book. So from that, I got on Good Morning America. And before that, I had gotten on travel shows, and the Publicitree, it was unique enough that, it got the word out there. And every time I got in a national publication or airing on, the phone would ring off the hook. Because they say location, location, location. I have a beautiful location, but it's very hard to find. has just snowballed, and from there it's word of mouth and the
Yeah.
internet. I also was able, in 1994, I got the domain name treehouses.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had, punch in treehouse, I come up number one.
Wow.
So from there, from Peter Nelson doing his book, has caused there was sort of a revival of treehouse building, or an expansion of it.
Mm-hmm.
And from the need to get a permit and get them permitted and make them stronger, I got together with Pete and we started a World Treehouse Conference and had conferences on it. And also that with Charlie, with being able to prove that they're strong enough, needed to come up with a better method of building a treehouse. Now, a lot of kids' tree houses are done with just nailing boards to trees,
Mm-hmm.
okay? What I did was I bolted metal to the tree and then bolted the wood to the metal. And that gave it to last longer and made it stronger. And then actually the tree would grow around the metal and bolster block the metal. Then the wood, because it wasn't touching wood to wood, lasted longer. And I was able, because it bolster blocked, and that's why one of the ways that I got a permit was to show that they were strong enough was doing stress testing. I was able to stress test the tree house to show that it was strong enough to meet code by actually putting people up in the tree. All right, so in 92 I got on the cover, it came out in 94, and that's when because it came out, and I got on Good Morning America, and then the county came down and ordered me to tear it down. And then on July 4th, Independence Day, I put 66 people up in the tree house, 2 dogs, a cat. We're not sure if the hummingbird lighted, and that was over 10,000 pounds, and that's what that size structure needed to hold. And so it passed code requirement on that. So, and then from that they rescinded the order, but then I still had to go to the state, and the battle, like I said, is going to be going back and forth for a long time. But we've come a long way, from that one tree house to I have now like 16 of them here.
So you have 16 right now. When did you add the zip lines?
No, zip lines I added, they've been around for like 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, first I had one a short one to the old oak tree there. Actually, it could come out of my bedroom window. I had to take a rope over to this other platform, and I could zip to this tree house 50 feet up in the air, and it was where, if they came to get me, that's where I was going to do my Ruby Ridge. I mean, I didn't have any weapons or anything, but they wouldn't have been able to get me.
Your last stand.
My last stand, yeah. So, but it never came to that. I mean, even on the, they did go me for contempt of court, but the judge ruled that even though they had an enforcement agent that saw somebody come out of one of the tree houses in the morning in their pajamas and have a cup of coffee and go back, that wasn't enough evidence to prove that they were actually inhabiting the tree house. So he found me not guilty, which then took the wind out of their sails, so they couldn't really enforce it. So then they started working with me and allowed me to get permits. So
that's really great. You've got zip lines, you've got tree houses. What
well,
else?
Horseback riding. Remember, I first started with horseback riding and the cabin, and nobody came. Then I got the tree house, and everybody came and wanted to stay in that. Everybody and their kids. That one I built just for an adult tree house, but everybody and their kids. So then I built the Swiss Family Robinson, which was, had room for the little kids.
Yeah.
That filled up, so my money came back to me, actually. And I took that money, along with credit cards and advance bookings, and built the suite.
Wow.
So, and then that money came back, and so it just kept growing to where I was able to, my money came back, I took that money and put it back into tree houses, and it grew to what it is. Now I employ like 35 people. So.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, let's take a break from that conversation. I wanted to bring up a question for you. During these crazy times, do you feel like your business is indestructible? Most people don't. And if not, the real question is why? And what can you do to make it as indestructible as possible. Well, that's the basis of my new book, 9 Ways to Amazon-Proof Your Business. Let me talk about what we discuss in the 3rd chapter, the 3rd way for you to Amazon-proof your business, which is be different. In the 3rd chapter, I go into really how do you put yourself out there and be seen as unique, where you really don't even have competition. And there's ways of doing this. In fact, I talk about 2 specific books that you should go out and get. And these aren't difficult books to read. These are fun books. Books that will inspire you and give you creative juices necessary to be able to really stand out and be different. You don't have to be wacky. You don't have to be outrageous. But you do have to appear different. And if you can appear different from everyone else out there, not only will you not have the competition of Amazon.com, you won't have any competition. But I also have 8 other ways to Amazon-proof your business. Basically, the idea of making it competition-proof to even someone as big as Amazon.com. So if you'd like to get your hands on a free copy of my book, go to AmazonProofBook.com. Sign up and you will get a free copy and get the chance to purchase a physical copy of it for a special price. In addition to that, if you happen to be in the Josephine County area or nearby, and you're looking to have a speaker come and discuss these type of issues with your organization, club, or group of friends, then I have a limited calendar that I may be able to fit you into. Go check out brianjpombo.com/speaking and fill out the application. We'll be sure and get back to you on that. And now let's get back to our show. What would you say is the top draw nowadays? What brings in the most people, or what treehouse gets the most bookings?
All the ones with bathrooms are the first ones.
Yeah.
Now, our first treehouse didn't have any bathrooms in it. I had the Peacock Perch had a sink though, and basically I had to build a whole new septic system for that sink.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
It's fine. I mean, because I filled that septic system up, but it was just kind of ironic that I had to do a whole septic system just for a sink. I already had one, but I had to do another one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I mean, people were willing to come and stay in a treehouse and still have to come down on the ground and go to a bathroom.
Yeah.
You know, I used to have a chamber pot up there that I said for the ladies at night. Here's a chamber pot, for the guys there's a porch. You know, but things have gotten more crowded since then. And but as I developed and got better at building tree houses and making them bigger, because you need room for a bathroom.
Yeah.
You know, so I was able to, make them bigger, and now I sort of plan on them. They all have bathrooms. So, but the taller they are, the more popular and the bigger they are, and as long as they have a bathroom and a shower.
Fabulous. Well, that's great. So, with all that's happened, especially in this past year and a half now, where we're dealing with COVID-19 and everything, how's that affected how you do business around here?
Well, yes, it's been quite a year. Basically, when COVID hit, we felt we were probably in a good position still because of the way we're set up. I mean, we have units that are separated. So we have social distancing built into the tree houses. So we adapted, and our breakfasts, though, that was one of the focal points of the resort, because it's kind of a family resort, and the whole experience, one of the things about it is that you met other people here. It's not like going to a big hotel, right?
Yeah.
You actually meet people here, and breakfast time was one of the times where you interacted with them a lot. And that we had to get rid of, so we, do bag lunches and, to-go breakfasts, basically breakfasts. So we closed down coming into the resort and having breakfast. People took it up to their rooms or outside. That increased our garbage twofold, but it didn't cause too many cancellations until they closed down the state, and everybody stopped, staying at home, and so that, for a good 2 months we were pretty much no business. But once they opened it up, it came back, and it's actually, this winter has been the best winter that we've had, just because we're kind of an ideal place to come for for COVID.
Yep.
And basically outdoors and social distance. Now, for our zip lines, we require you to wear a mask because you're up on a platform, and we still do horseback riding, and we require you to wear a mask when you get on the horse. But once you're out on the trail, you don't need it. We require you to have a mask when you come inside the resort, but a lot of it's outside. And then I don't feel too bad. The other place where the guests would congregate was around the fireplace. Well, I feel pretty good about that because you're congregating around a fireplace, a fire that's taking everything and purifying it in between you. So you can yell at the guy on the other side and no spit will get there.
That's great.
So and it seems that people seem to realize that, and I think that a lot of people we're just a very COVID-friendly place to come.
If we were to talk, say, a year from now, if we had you back on the show and talked to you, and we look back over the past 12 months, everything that had happened, what would you say would have had to have happened for you to feel happy with your progress and where things are going?
Well, as long as COVID doesn't come back and slap us for some divergence or deviation of it, I think we should be fine. I think we'll recover, quite well. Now the fire, as long as we don't have another fire, the fire hit us pretty hard too. We had to evacuate. I mean, we had to get people up in the morning and tell them, okay, it's time to go, because the fire was raging over the hill. Luckily, the next day it sort of stopped and choked out, but that shut us down for a good 3 weeks. So as long as there's not another fire. Fires, the smoke and stuff is one of the things that can cause us havoc here.
Yeah.
But and I've got 3 more tree houses that I got to get permitted.
Oh, wow.
I'm down to just those. As long as nothing goes wrong, I'll be happy,
Yeah. Do you think a lot of the controversy that's happened through the years regarding codes and all your fighting with the county and state and so forth, do you think any of that has come back to you in terms of good publicity?
Well, yeah, it has. It's a controversy.
Yeah.
Is caused Publicitree.
Yep.
And so even though it hasn't been the headlines, I mean, and actually with the conference and the other treehouse builders and everybody, actually our business was growing almost exponential until about 4 or 5 years ago it started leveling out. One of the things was, okay, we had the treehouse shows too. There was the Treehouse Masters, which Peter Nelson was in, all right, and then the Treehouse Guys. And then from our success, there's been a lot of other people that are doing it now. Like on Airbnb, one of the most searched places to stay is in tree houses. So there's I've helped a lot of people. I've built and helped a lot of people build tree houses that are rented out.
Yeah.
So we're not the only ones anymore. Like I said, I consider us the largest concentrations of tree houses in the world, but and beforehand we were the only ones, but now there's others, and there's competition in that. It's sort of slowed us down. We even, lost some, business. We sort of leveled off, but we're still doing good. I mean, to expand, I need to finish with the building department. And actually, I've started another piece of property where I've got another tree house and starting a plan on another one. It's actually, that's a bud and breakfast. This is a family resort area, but this area is, has been a growing area ever since I've been, mostly ever since I've been here. Actually, it was 1976 that the price of marijuana went up to where everybody started growing it to make money.
Oh, how interesting. Yeah.
But now it's become legal and it's very competitive, and there's a venture that I'm going for is I guess marijuana tourism. So that it's sort of like Napa Valley.
Yep.
This is kind of one of the Napa Valleys for the northern part of the Emerald Triangle, and to make some money on tourists coming here to smell the flowers, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the fall flowers, not the spring flowers. So I've built a tree house at another piece of property, and I'm planning on building more. That's where I'm putting my energy.
You see any obstacles standing in your way besides the threat of wildfire, the threat of COVID? Is there anything else that's standing in your way? It sounds like the coding issues are slowly receding.
No, I try to encourage other people to kind of do the same thing on that, because as it becomes more legal and as it becomes more commercial, the little guy is going to get squeezed out of the growing. But if we can to help develop a cannabis tourism business to go along with it, which would be places to stay, nice, unique places to stay. I really feel for the county. We don't have any big Hyatts or Ramadas or anything like that, but we can be known, and that was my whole intent with Josephine. My argument with the planners and everything. Look, we should be known as the place because we have the trees to build. To be known as a world concentration of tree houses and places to stay. And we should be able to expand on that. And I think they have listened to that and have worked for that. And the more, like I said, I've lost business because the rest of the world has more tree houses. But I'm still up there. And
but the interest has grown further than it ever has, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it has. So I think there's still room for it. Now you're going to have the same thing with the cannabis industry. Now some people may not want to have anything to do with it and shut it down, but I think it's here to stay, and it's a clean industry, And one of the things for me was that, I loved working with wood, but, I didn't really want to make my living cutting down trees. I wanted to put added value to them, and an added value to a tree can be, it gets to get bigger. When you cut it down and make it into something that's, you don't just sell it as a 2x4, you make it into something pretty and get more money from it. Or you keep your forest big and, green, and you have more people come and visit them. You don't have to live in a burned out, hopefully we don't have to live in a burned out, logged out area. So how do we retain that and make money off of that? I think that logging can be done in a selective way that still works for everybody. So, and then tree houses fit right in with that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. Well, what could a listener do if they want to find out more about?
Well, remember I have the treehouses.com.
Treehouses.com.
It's, remember that tree houses because I have more than one tree house. So if you go to treehouses.com, you can find out about staying here at the Treesort. You can find out about how to build them, how to zip, how to ride horses, and everything's on that website. So it's easy to remember. Treehouses.com.
Thank you so much. Michael Garnier, thanks so much for being on the Grants Pass VIP podcast.
Take care, everybody.
Okay, I took some time out to pull over right after leaving Out'n'About Treesort. Such a great time. Had such a good time with Michael. It's really amazing to meet somebody who's a pioneer on so many levels. Being a pioneer in the entire treehouse craze, being a pioneer really bringing growth to this area of Southern Oregon that never had it before. On so many different levels, he likes to be out in front of things, and it's just really cool to meet somebody who has so much innovation and creativity and passion about what he does that he's willing to fight the powers that be. Whether you agree or disagree, he's certainly fought for his rights to be able to do what he wants out here in Tacoma. It's really fabulous meeting somebody of this caliber and being able to hang out in the place that he created. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm very much an what they call FEC buff. FEC is Family Entertainment Centers. So anything having to do with theme parks or activities or things that families can do out and about, whether it be miniature golf or zip lining or hanging out in a treehouse, I just love this stuff. I eat it up. It's so amazing to me to get out there and feel it and be in it, and to see families having a great time, which I definitely got to see today. Even though we're on the tail end of winter, there really are quite a few people out here having a great time. There's a lot of things that I think are obvious that Michael has done right. And I want to point out some of the less obvious ideas that I don't think a lot of people would see right off the bat. Number one, there's a guy named Dan Kennedy who's a bit of a marketing expert, and he says that when business owners have an idea that they get out there and they want it to become sticky, they want it to become engaging and get a following, one of the things they do is kind of create their own language. And that's definitely what Michael has done. He has used the word tree in every way that he could, any pun-oriented manner that you can come up with. All you got to do is check out his website to see all the different ways. He calls it the Treesort, for crying out loud. I mean, it's just great. And he uses it just like it's normal, everyday language. And when you do that, you endear people to you. You build up kind of a following just in switching around the language. It's a really interesting thing that he does. But that little tiny thing, which is cute at first, what you realize is it's building up a culture, and it's built up this counterculture of tree house enthusiasts that has spread around the world. I don't think I mentioned this to Michael, but when I tell people where I live and I'm somewhere else in the country or in the world, there's two things that people ask me about the most. One, they'll ask me about the Shakespeare Festival out in Ashland. The other thing that they always ask me about is the tree houses right out here at Out'n'About. And that's pretty spectacular to have something that is somewhat of a world landmark with certain people. That's pretty incredible, and he's got a legacy that will continue on and on and on here, I'm sure. But I hope you found this interesting. He's one of the people that make our area so unique and fun.
Join us again on the next Grants Pass VIP, brought to you by the team at BrianJPombo.com, helping movers and shakers in Southern Oregon and beyond stand out. That's BrianJPombo.com. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest or a sponsor on Grants Pass VIP, go to grantspassvip.com/contact. Guests who appear on the show do not necessarily endorse the opinions of the host or sponsors. Our theme music is Funshine by Kevin MacLeod. Our host is a Grants Pass resident and business strategist, Brian Pombo. I'm executive producer Sean E. Douglas. Until next time, live road and have fun.